They called her a mistake. Okay. Civilian who had no right to stand among the nation's finest. Okay. She wasn't bred from generals, nor trained in academies lined with medals. Okay. She was simple, ordinary, forgettable. So they laughed, and they threw her out. But the same week they mocked her name, she returned in silence, took control of the deadliest jet on earth, and landed it in the heart of their camp. Every soldier stood frozen in disbelief. The military pilot camp was unlike any other place on earth. It was a crucible, okay? Built not just to train, but to break, to strip down pride and rebuild it into something forged by steel and sky. Cadets arrived from powerful families, elite schools, canned battlefields that had already tested their grit. And then, Tare was her. She walked through the gates with a duffel bag worn thin at the seams. No polished boots, no gleaming insignias. Just determination hiding behind quiet eyes. She was a civilian volunteer, admitted by chance, almost by accident. After a clerical oversight had placed her file in the wrong stack from the first day. She stood out for all the wrong reasons. She stumbled through military jargon, her salutes awkward, her uniform ill-fitted. The cadets whispered behind her back, calling her tourist. Instructors looked at her with a mix of annoyance and pity. She didn't belong, and everyone knew it. She tried harder than anyone. Long runs through blistering desert mornings left her collapsing, but she got back up. Simulators spun her until she was sick, but she returned to the seat. Every failure weighed heavy, every smirk cut deep, and at the end of the first week, she was summoned to the commander's office. A single paper, stamped with red letters, ended her chance. Dismissed, she walked out with nothing, no recognition, no honor, not even the respect of those who had laughed at her. To them, she was gone, erased from the story before it had even begun. But to her, it was only the beginning. Long before the camp, for the uniforms and rules, her world had been small. A dusty town, forgotten by maps, where dreams rarely took flight. Her father had been the only one who believed in the sky, a mechanic, an airfield drifter, a man who patched wings together with oil-stained hands. She was his shadow. She followed him into hangars, watched him rebuild engines, and sat in the cockpit of broken planes he promised would one day rise again. At 12, she could trace every dial in the cockpit from memory. At 15, she flew a patched-up single-engine plane before she even had a driver's license. But dreams are fragile. Her father's life ended with a wrench slipping, an accident no one saw coming. She buried him with nothing but debts and his old flight manuals. Life hardened her. She worked jobs that broke her back, but never her spirit. Yet, every night, she walked outside, staring at the sky. The stars weren't lights to her. They were runways. They were reminders of the man who taught her that flight didn't belong to the rich or powerful. It belonged to anyone who dared to chase it. So when the pilot camp posted its recruitment call, she signed her name. She didn't care about medals or ranks. She just wanted the sky. And now, after being cast out, she realized something the cadets never could. She didn't need permission to fly. The camp slept under desert stars. Its watchtowers scanned the perimeter. Hangars were locked, their steel doors gleaming under floodlights. Soldiers on patrol believed the base was impenetrable, but one shadow moved silently, timing every step with the sweep of lights. It was her. She knew every routine, every blind spot. A week at camp had been enough to memorize patterns. She moved with precision, slipping past barriers until she reached the hangar dot inside. The smell of jet fuel wrapped around her like an old memory. There they stood, aircraft lined in silence. Some she recognized from her manuals: trainers, helicopters, drones. But at the far end, lit by a lonely bulb, was the predator of the skies, an F-22 Raptor. Her breath caught. This was no relic. This was the pinnacle of human engineering, a fighter jet whispered about with reverence, even in military circles. Most cadets weren't even allowed near it. Her hands trembled as she climbed into the cockpit. The seat embraced her like it had been waiting. Switches and gauges blinked awake under her touch, each one matching the diagrams she had memorized years ago. Engines roared. The ground trembled. Soldiers shouted outside, but it was too late. The Raptors surged forward, and with a thunderous crack, it tore into the sky. The desert blurred beneath her. The night opened wide, and in the roar of the engines, she felt something she hadn't since her father's last flight. Freedom. The jet responded like it knew her. Every roll, every dive, every climb felt instinctive. Her body wasn't strapped to a machine, it was the machine. She climbed through the clouds, pulling maneuvers that would make trained pilots grit their teeth for the cadets sleeping in barracks below. The sonic boom shattered dreams. They rushed out into the night, pointing to the streak of steel carving through the sky. Officers barked orders, alarms blared, but no one could believe it. Someone had stolen their most advanced jet, but it wasn't theft. It was reclamation. She flew not for glory, not for revenge, but because the sky was hers. It always had been. Hours passed like seconds. And as dawn broke, painting the horizon in fire, she made her choice. She wasn't going to vanish into legend. She was going to land right there on their runway. The base was chaos when she returned. Sirens wailed. Soldiers lined the runway, weapons drawn in disbelief. The cadets, their pride built on bloodlines and names, stood in silence, staring at the impossible sight. The F-22 descended with elegance, its landing gear unfolding like steel wings. The jet kissed the runway, rolling smooth and perfect, as though guided by destiny itself. Engines cooled, metal ticked, silence spread. When the canopy lifted, the world seemed to stop. It wasn't a decorated officer. It wasn't a prodigy from a famous lineage. It was Hertha, a woman they had dismissed as simple, the one they laughed at, the one they threw out. And yet she had done what none of them could. She climbed down from the cockpit, boots striking the tarmac with quiet defiance. She didn't raise her hands in triumph. She didn't demand recognition. She walked calmly, as though she had only proven something to herself. Around her, cadets shifted uncomfortably. Officers stood frozen. The base commander, who had stamped her dismissal, could not move his gaze from the woman who had humbled his entire camp without speaking a single word. She didn't belong to their ranks. She never would. Her name would not appear in reports or history books, but every soul on that field knew the truth. The sky had chosen her, and as the sun broke over the horizon, igniting the jet behind her in gold, they realized something they would never forget. You can throw someone out of camp, but you can't throw them out of destiny. She had flown higher than all of them forever.